Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really deep philosophical conflict. We're looking at the intense tension between language, logic, and the very boundaries of human experience. We're going to follow a logician whose entire universe is built on verifiable facts, right up until the moment he encounters something, or, well, rather, someone, who completely shatters his entire framework. So, I want you to really think about this for a second. If a feeling cannot be measured, does it actually exist? It's a massive Socratic question, and it hooks us right from the start because it establishes the incredibly high stakes of our protagonist's journey. Our main character, Lucian Frome, is a guy who firmly believes the answer to this question is a definitive no. To him, if you can't measure it, it's just neural noise. But what happens when a man who only believes in the measurable runs headfirst into a reality that completely defies quantification? Section 1. The Kingdom of Clear Speech. The beautiful prison of absolute logic. Okay, so to understand Lucian's journey, we first have to understand his world, Veridica. This is a highly structured, hyper-logical setting where absolute logic isn't just a preference, it's the law. And Veridica didn't get this way by accident. Looking at the timeline of Queen Matilda's Great Reform, we see a society that was literally traumatized by misunderstanding. History there is stained by endless wars caused by metaphor and passionate speech. It actually got so extreme that a royal was executed over the phrase lion-hearted, simply because an autopsy proved the king literally had no leonine tissue. Insane, right? So Queen Matilda issued the decree of clear speech. She systematically wiped out ambiguity by banning poetry and any unquantifiable religion. Her core belief was essentially, whereof one cannot speak clearly, thereof one must be silent. And this absolute logic is enforced through something called null speech. In Veridica, using unverifiable language is a literal crime, punishable by fines. You cannot legally call a sunset sublime or a song beautiful because those are subjective, unmeasurable terms. If a statement cannot be verified against a measurable state of affairs, it's deemed meaningless. And in this society, speaking meaninglessly is considered a massive waste of a citizen's quantifiable time. This obsession with measurement trickles down into every single aspect of daily life. Like, imagine buying bread. This isn't a science lab. This is literally how a baker sells bread in Veridica. Fresh bread, 4.2 ounces per roll, 23% moisture content, baked at 425 degrees for exactly 18 minutes. It perfectly captures how absurdly quantified daily life is in this kingdom, where even your morning breakfast has to come with certification papers. But, as we all know, no system is perfect, because human beings aren't perfect. We actually see the very first crack in Lucian's worldview during a court case. Lucian is trying to save a merchant by reducing the concept of beauty to clinical, measurable aesthetic parameters. 600 thread count, 470 nanometer wavelengths, things like that. But the merchant completely throws his own case away by blurting out the unmeasurable truth. It made me feel something I don't have words for. The merchant ends up getting fined, but those words plant this tiny, nagging seed of doubt in Lucian's mind. Section 2. The Border of Imprecision, where logical grammar begins to fail. So Lucian's growing curiosity leads him to take a research trip out to Sector 7, which is this settlement way out on the outer edges of the kingdom. And when he arrives, the contrast is completely jarring. Back in the capital, clouds are just condensed water vapor, but here the innkeeper calls them great ships sailing. In Veridica, music is strictly a mathematical pattern. Here, an old woman plays what the feeling wants. For Lucian, happiness requires a positive stimulus response, but out on the border, a child laughs just because. Lucian is suddenly encountering people who actually embrace imprecise speech, and it deeply, deeply unsettles his hyperlogical mind. Which brings us to a really pivotal question, and I want to put this directly to you. What exists that you can't say? As Lucian watches these villagers engaging in wordless rituals and speaking in metaphors, he starts experiencing a full-blown internal crisis. His entire life is built on the premise that if you can't say it, it isn't real. But what if there are things that are overwhelmingly real precisely because they defy language? Section 3. The Impossible Woman, the woman who breaks the rules of measurement. It's in Sector 7 that Lucian meets a woman named Eliana. And she's the absolute antithesis of Veridica's clinical coldness. She's warm, she's present, and she completely breaks every single rule of measurement he relies on. You can feel his immense frustration as he tries to write up a scientific field report on her. Subject, female. Age, unknown. Eyes, the color of forests. He can't even pen down her real name. His scientific methodology completely fails to categorize or document this woman. Every time he tries to reduce her to data points, the essence of who she is just slips right through his fingers. And Eliana knows exactly what he's up to. She tells him, names are how you capture things, how you pin them down and make them stay still. She completely refuses to be just a data point. She shows him that by constantly trying to label and categorize the world, he isn't actually understanding it at all. He's just trapping it in a very small box so he doesn't have to deal with its vastness. Later, when Eliana simply places her hand on his chest, Lucian experiences this profound emotional response. But, true to form, he desperately tries to reduce this massive feeling to mere physiological symptoms. He mentally notes his elevated heart rate, the 2-degree skin temperature increase, the dopamine release. He tries to explain it all the way as a biological response to a novel stimulus, completely ignoring the most important part, that unmeasurable, terrifying feeling of coming home. Section 4. Facts versus truth. The breakdown of Lucian's worldview. Now, Lucian is forced to confront the reality that having all the facts just isn't the same as understanding the truth. Eliana takes him out into a heavy storm to prove exactly this. To Lucian, rain is just condensation falling at 7 degrees Celsius. That's a fact. But the truth is that rain is wet, it's chaotic, it's alive, and it must be stood in to be experienced. Eliana is showing him the exact difference between explaining a mechanism and truly experiencing reality. The facts are just the map. The truth is the actual territory. As Eliana tells him, the honest thing is to say, I can tell you about the rain, but I can't give you the rain. She proves that descriptions are only ever approximations of reality. Veridica built a whole society on the lie that the description is the reality, but words can never fully capture the actual experience of being alive. And all of this culminates in a crucial breakthrough. Standing out there in that storm, Lucian finally admits his feelings, but he still tries to quantify his affection. He starts talking about his focus narrowing, his heart rate going up, and Eliana hits him with this incredible realization. You're describing symptoms, not love. Love is not reducible. You absolutely cannot capture it by just listing its physiological effects. If you explain it away, you lose it completely. Lucian's entire philosophical framework basically collapses as he realizes the core truth of Sector 7. Meaning isn't something you objectively measure. It's something human beings create. Ambiguity isn't a failure of logic. It's actually just honesty about the limits of language. When you face the unsayable, the answer isn't to force a label onto it. The answer is simply presence. And most importantly, love cannot be reduced to its components. Section 5. Choosing the unsayable. Embracing the unmeasurable truth. Now a fundamentally changed man, Lucian is faced with a massive choice. And it all boils down to 3 simple words. I love you. He says it to Eliana plainly, without any qualification, without reducing it to mechanisms. It is a huge emotional payoff. Because in the context of Veridica, these are the 3 most dangerous, illegal, unquantifiable words in existence. By saying them, and truly meaning them, Lucian is crossing a line from which he can never return. When the Academy demands Lucian's return, literally threatening to destroy Sector 7 if he doesn't, he faces his ultimate choice. He could easily go back, lie, and categorize Eliana as a harmless psychological anomaly just to save them both. But he absolutely refuses to reduce her to a label. Instead, Lucian chooses permanent exile. He gives up his credentials, his safety, and his known reality to step out into the unknown wilderness with Eliana. Ultimately, as Eliana says, the cost of seeing truly is giving up your comfortable fictions. Facing the messy, beautiful, unmeasurable nature of the human condition requires immense bravery. Lucian finally realizes that Veridica's perfect logic was just a comfortable fiction designed to protect people from the terrifying vulnerability of being truly alive. So, I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought today. If you had to choose between the perfect, safe certainty of a quantifiable life and the messy, terrifying, unmeasurable truth of actual human experience, which would you choose? Think about your own comfortable fictions and what it might cost to let them go. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the unsayable.